Welcome. I'm Rogers Anderson, Williamson County's mayor, and today we have the honor of having a conversation with a gentleman that looks younger and heads up a big important department, Matt Horsman, through the University of Tennessee. We often call it the Ag Extension, but they have different names. And Matt, thanks for being with us today.
Well, it's my pleasure. It's glad to be here. It's just 3 or 4 times that we've started to do this, and you keep saying younger, but the hair keeps falling out, so it keeps giving me away.
Well, we'll not talk about hair. I promise you, it'll either turn gray or turn out. One of the two. The physical location of where you work is out off of Paytonsville Road, Long Lane, at the Ag Center, where the fair is, where so many of our activities. And it's your predecessor before you. We always have to mention Dwayne. he was an institution around this county for so many years. And now you're following in his footsteps. How does an individual like yourself get involved and want to go in that direction for a career? There's probably people watching and always interested in what steers us into our different careers and paths that we choose in life.
When in doubt, for most people, the answer is a woman.
Well, that's true.
and I, growing up, I grew up on a farm in Illinois, and we did a little bit of everything, mainly a row crop farm. So I've always kind of had that ag bone in me, but I've always liked challenges, whether it was an ag or some other field. And so a woman got me down here, and it wasn't necessarily the job, and I really wasn't totally sure what the job was necessarily going to entail. I knew agriculture, and I knew to some degree the area. But as I've started to immerse myself in this, I really found that, this was a calling that I've had probably before I even knew it. I just didn't know what it was. Because the extension gives me the opportunity to meet with so many new people and to carry on the passion I have with agriculture, but also to then impress that upon lots of new people, and especially people that are very interested in learning more about it. We kind of hear all throughout the country that people are losing touch with agriculture, and to some degree that's very true. But I feel like in the area that we call home in Williamson County, it's a special place because a lot of people have the time and the energy and the desire to learn more about where their agriculture and their food and other things are coming from. And so that's really something that I cherish, because I get to then really get back to the passion of teaching and helping, consulting with people on how to get back to those roots.
When I think of Williamson County and the ag side, there's a great history here in our community. Long before you and I ever got here, Williamson County was known for its ag side. It's certainly its beef and row crops, and of course the hays and the beans. And today, with the ever-changing world we live in, and certainly the fast growth of new people moving in, I was reading some statistics the other day talking about that over 50% of the people that live in Williamson County were not born in this state, much less this county. Do you see, and I know the answer to this, but do you see ag as we see it, and do you see the interest and level of people in our community? Because your 4-H side is absolutely growing and booming.
It is, and to some degree that's kind of redefined itself in what people traditionally think of 4-H. But on the ag side, to divert real quick and then come right back to that question, I've had the recent opportunity to have a conversation with a gentleman, Dr. Joe Johnson, who was the president at the University of Tennessee, and we got to speaking about the history. And prior to myself, there's Dwayne Perry, which you mentioned, and then there's a gentleman that was named H.Y. Beeler, who was here for a long time, and then a gentleman named Nathan Lowe from 1959 to 1974. And he just happened to be Joe Johnson's father-in-law. He was our county director. So there really is a connection. So we are going back and talking about reliving the history of that time period of kind of his experiences and why he came back here in 1959. The reason why he came here was for the better schools for his kids. So even back to that time period that they've come back there. So it's really kind of far-reaching, the impact the extension has had in this county. But when we get back to the kind of the area with agriculture in Williamson County, I was recently having a conversation with Farm Bureau, and they're trying to define board members by if they lived on a farm. And I said, real quick, hold on. We're going to have to actually define what a farm is, because I don't know how many phone calls every day that I get that start off with, I have a 1 or a 5 acre farm.
Right.
and that's really what it is. They truly believe they have a 1 or a 5 acre farm, and they are quite diversified on that farm. So what we're doing is we're taking 200 acre farms, 500 acre farms that are just one farmer, and we're turning them into 45 acre farms, or even 100 2-acre farms, and that's truly what a lot of people believe. And so we take that mentality, and that's great. It doesn't, farms don't have to be a certain acreage. They can be whatever that person defines, but they are trying to grow and produce, maybe not necessarily to sustain an entire family for a year, but maybe to sustain it for a month. And so they can take pride in that, and it's a great way to expose them to agriculture and the importance of it on a worldwide scale.
You're in charge of several programs out at the Ag Center. There's a distinct difference between what Kenny does, who runs the Ag facility, and what you're doing over through the University of Tennessee Extension and through the programs that you offer. And your staff, one of the finest staffs around, I personally feel that. You offer so much more than just teaching people how to raise a garden.
That's true, and we have a great working relationship with the Ag Park, and we're very fortunate to have that facility. No other county in the entire state can have that type of partnership along the way. So that allows us to do a lot of things that we may not necessarily be able to do without that partnership. And so when we talk about extension, it used to be the University of Tennessee Agriculture Extension Agency. And we still take a lot of pride in ag extension, but now it's more of University of Tennessee Extension, because it's so diverse in what we can offer as far as education, consulting along the way. Everything from health and consumer sciences to horticulture to nutrition and health to STEM and robotics and all different sciences. And a lot of times we just offer the service that if you have an issue, we can kind of be that go-between to find out what is the resource that the University of Tennessee or Williamson County has to offer, and how we can get you the answer you need through our vast areas of assets.
So you mentioned an item that when the fair is in town in August, which will be around the corner. We're taping this show 2 or 3 weeks prior to that, but we're introducing at a higher level, I might say, through some of your staff, and we're also getting involved more in the STEM, and I'm going to let you kind of define what STEM or STEAM and STEM and all the acronyms we have for the different programs. But why would we ever want to see that at the Ag Center and through your departments? What's the significance of that? Why aren't they learning that in public education?
And they actually are in public education, but when you look at the time period that they have in a school period, there's only so many things they can do within that time period. And also it goes to much the same with sports and athletics and everything else. So you may get an opportunity to play sports in school, but then some of those that have the desire to continue to further that education want that next level to be able to do it. And so coming in, it is an expensive adventure, so coming up with groups that can have that ability and the capability and assets to be able to teach that is very important. So we're trying to do it in conjunction with the Williamson County school system, the private industries that are out there, and bringing together, especially at the fair, bringing together an opportunity for all the STEM, which is the science, technology, engineering, mathematics, which is a wide variety of opportunities within that realm, bringing all those entities together, because all in all, we're all fighting for the same thing, is to further our youth in this county, to give them the best possible shot to excel later on, whether it comes for the private businesses or on down to schooling down the way.
Some of the programs that's nearest and dearest to your heart, there's always, I know even here as the mayor of a wonderful county, there are some programs that are just a little bit closer to your roots. You take a special pride in it. What would those be for Matt Horsman?
For Matt Horsman, early on and still to this day, land is one of the things that I just purely enjoy. seeing a beautiful piece of land, so you already have the background here, is how can we really make sure that we can utilize and really enhance that value of that land. So really getting into how, when homeowners or landowners purchase that land, how can we make it look the most environmentally friendly and useful piece of ground. So doing consulting with different people on ways they can control weeds, enhance the quality of their grasses, and just really maintain that beauty that Williamson County expects and enjoys seeing throughout the county.
We were talking before we went on air late last night. I was putting up some purple hull peas, and I'm probably still got the purple stains on my fingers from shelling those rascals last night, late into the night. And a favorite thing of so many people where I live is that they may have a particular tree or something, some vegetation or some of the land. And it's been around since I was a boy when my dad was doing some ag up in the East Tennessee area, that maybe you needed something in your soil but you weren't real sure, or this particular leaf is curling up, turning brown, got these bugs on them. For years and years, people have delivered those things to the ags area and said, help.
What do I do?
Still available?
It still is, and I won't be unabashed in saying is we have one of the most talented, if not the most talented, horticulture agents that, as far as the state can offer, and Amy Dismukes in our horticulture department with her team of master gardeners that can offer a lot of those services, and she is hands down one of the best diagnosticians that we have as far as trees, gardens, and as far as insects and disease identification and how to actually treat that. So we're very fortunate in this county to have that resource and a resource and a team of people that, because Amy's one person, a team of people that can go out in the community and help that. And so it's really one that, to some degree, depending on the time of year, we can get overwhelmed and swamped and not able to respond as fast as people would like. But it's a service that I think, a lot of other times you're going to have to pay a lot for, that we're trying to offer the citizens. And then working with the businesses to offer that solution on how they can then treat it.
I find that my hobby, from about February through the first frost, is really getting my hands in the dirt.
Yep.
It's not. It is a activity unlike anything that I've ever done over the last 50 plus years since I was told by Mom and Dad to get out and weed the strawberries, to hoe in the corn, to you can play ball after you finish your chores. Most young people in the farming ag world have heard that, and I think all of our moms came out of the same mold.
They did.
But I found as I was a young boy working, it couldn't wait till I got grown, had a job. I was never doing this again. Most of us probably make that statement. And then when you get a little bit older and you start your family, number one, you want them to have good products. You want them to, you want to know what they're putting in their mouth. As my children have grown, I'm having grandchildren now. I see a different level of participation in that I'm wanting to get those grandchildren involved and teach them how to grow and how to see a finished product and what it is just to pull a tomato off and kind of shine it up on your shirt tail and take a bite out of it, or any of the other products that you can think of. But I find it very therapeutic, man.
It is. Just look at this county as far as the farmers market go. We have a minimum of 5 farmers markets that are on a consistent basis all throughout the summer, the fall, and to some degree into the spring. And some of them are operating even on a longer basis through greenhouses and a few things like that. But those are all people that are, they're valuing getting back to their roots and getting back to, agriculture where it came from. And so they're going to there, but they're also, when they attend there, they also want to learn a little bit about where that's produced, and so that maybe they can go home and produce, like I said, maybe a week's worth of tomatoes. Maybe instead of being able to produce it for the entire summer, let's go home and produce a week for us. So I continue to go to the farmer's market. But, it's just an experience when they go to those farmer's markets. And I think that's attributed to, just like I said, people wanting to get back to the roots of agriculture. And, way Mom said and Grandma said this is the way to do it. And then, like you said, it's kind of therapeutic when they go back and they try to apply those skills themselves to raise their own.
I know that there are many courses and many activities that if you're watching this show, that you all, it's not all about farming and ag. There's so many different activities that you all are embraced in, and with good solid people out there that can teach and help everything from nutritional side, which it was cornbread, beans, and potato for me growing up, and that's not the new model that we're teaching or should be teaching. Although it's good, it's great to eat. It does have lasting effects to eat cornbread every night.
You are, and we are very fortunate to have a high quality staff. And like I said, the way we view extension for Williamson County is we identify what the needs are. It's not a packaged product that we come and bring to the county and say, this is what we have to offer and you're going to take this. We identify where the needs are, where are the interests of the county, and then that's where we develop staff, develop programs to meet those needs. And health and nutrition are a big part of it. So, and healthy living. So, a lot of things we teach are can you dine on a healthy budget? So how can you dine, eating healthy products on a smaller budget for those that have those issues? Dining with diabetes. How can you have a really enjoyable meal with diabetes, or having a chronic condition that's causing you health problems? How can you live a successful life and continue to live the life that you once led with one of these conditions? So it's identifying what those issues are, and then as far as we get into the youth side, what are the passions of the youth of Williamson County? We all know, and part of the reason why we have the Williamson County Fair is because parents are willing and wanting to have any and all activities that are geared towards their kids. Speaking as a parent, you want to do anything that your child would like to, and then you would like to really engage that in kind of some really interesting and involved activities. So we gauge a lot of those for our 4-H activities, which is the youth component of the University of Tennessee. So typically when you hear the word 4-H, you think of agriculture, and that's really kind of changed. And we use 4-H as more of a motto, that is learn by doing, or life skills. So it's a philosophy we apply. So we get into STEM and robotics, health and nutrition, because those are things that are really passionate for Williamson County citizens.
Let me shift gears just a little bit and take us off center and take us from 12 o'clock maybe to 3 o'clock. There are probably people watching this show that would like to learn more about weapon safety, gun safety, and how do they get their license. And I know that is a Tennessee resource and wildlife area, but from time to time they do come out to our ag center.
They do, and the version. So there are, like I said, there are a lot of great entities that teach those aspects to adults. And so what we look at when we create programming is where are the niches, where are the gaps at, and so we view the gap as how do we teach our youth? With it, like a lot of things, sometimes it's hard to teach an old dog new tricks. So let's back it down a little bit and let's start teaching the youth that are coming up proper ways for handling and safety. So we have a shooting sports program that teaches kids the importance of how to handle safely guns and bows or whatever else they may be. And then building those life skills, those public speaking skills along with those actual technical skills. And so that is kind of our version of teaching those hunter safety things by teaching the youth. And then maybe they'll go home and teach mom and dad.
So you kind of hurriedly went through it, and I do want to touch on it. Bow. I have certainly been out there when the instructor is teaching a bunch of not small, but younger children. How to shoot a bow and arrow, how to become more proficient in that.
It is, and the ag park, I guess, is probably used a lot more for archery than anybody would really assume. With considering you have the 4-H archery program, Up on top of the hill outside of the Ag Park, we have the TWRA archery range, and then even the senior special or the senior Olympics have an archery contest there during the summer. So there is quite a bit of archery that goes on, but I think it just plays a big part in the overall safety for a lot of people, and teaching them early on how to handle it, and the type of things that bows and the power that you control when you have a bow or a BB gun, what the power is and what the ramifications can be if you don't handle it correctly.
It's important that our youth understand safety.
It is.
And whereas maybe you and I grew up with Dad, we walked in his footsteps. We learned by observing, and you learn by his ring hand coming on the back of your head, how to participate and to respect nature for what it is. But I highly encourage anyone that's got a young boy or young girl that's got some aspirations to look into that. We've got a great program out there. Man, I find that when I'm interviewing people that oftentimes I'm kind of geared towards a conversation to know what's going on. And I find also over the years when I do this that there's probably some areas that Matt Horsman would kind of like to see the conversation go in, or some programs that we're not currently offering, or how do you see the ag world being in the next 5 and 10 years? Spotlight on your time to get an opportunity to.
Well, and I'll dive into multiple areas, because our office, like I said, it's split between adult programming and then the youth programming.
Sure.
And so, getting into the adult programming, it's continuing to fine stream our product that's going to be developed for those 1 and 5 acre farms. We still have a lot of very beautiful large farms, and so we still have to address their needs, because there's still a big portion of Williamson County, because Williamson County still is in the top half as far as ag producing community or counties in the state. We should have the USDA census out for 2017. Coming out in early 2018, so it'd be interesting to see how much has changed since 2012. We obviously know quite a few things have, but it's continuing to address those needs for those 1 and 5 acre farms, and because they're going to continue to grow and grow and grow, and they may be even half acre farms by that point. So it's trying to address those needs, and I'm sure we're going to have more farmers markets, and so those are great educational resources along the way. As far as when we get into youth, the robotics and engineering is a huge area that we'd like to really get into, that we are currently
When you
developing.
speak of robotics, let me interrupt you.
Okay.
What are you talking about?
So part of it could be using Legos as robotics. That's Carnegie Mellon has a great curriculum. Typically you and I would think about Legos, you're playing, you got your little blocks and your little building, but now they're building, they have Legos that you can build to solve Rubik's Cubes, and it's just amazing. And so getting into drones are there's a lot of really unique robotic aspects to drones. Getting into 3D printing. At the fair, we're going to have a really unique opportunity where we're going to have a 3D printer printing rocket parts, but kids get the opportunity to mix and match 3D printed rocket parts to build their own and then see how far they can fly. So they get to really learn about the thermodynamics of rockets and what makes it, and then obviously get to see a printer actually printing rocket parts as they go. So, we're trying to expose kids to lots of different things, and then we get into Raspberry Pi programming. And so these are all skills that we've identified through the different businesses that they think kids maybe are lacking. So what we can do is offer those technical skills, but more importantly from the 4-H side, we can offer those life skills that will really make the difference between a kid entering the workforce if they're successful.
Yesterday I had the opportunity to travel over to one of our older established manufacturing businesses here in the Franklin area. It's called APCOM. And APCOM's been around almost 50 years in this area. Several years ago, George Veerman out of Fairview really stressed to me the importance of a skill set using hands through the products that they made. Yesterday, after the completion of I think it was about 50,000 more square feet of office space, the plant manager took me around and literally showed me. They were busting at the seams, but they showed me what the products that they're making over there. Now they employ about 350 people, 3 shifts, and can't find enough workers, can't find enough engineers, can't find enough tool and die men and women. And most of that plant now is on automation, robotics. Now there's still some parts of it, but they make the machines there for the production of these hot water heaters, and that's what APCOM is all about. They made the statement that probably 80 to 85% of all the hot water heaters throughout the United States either have a component or a part or their product. They private label for several large manufacturing companies. They do the residential, which is their bread and butter, but they do the commercial side for the bigger industrial things. And I was just taken back by the machinery that was in there. Now, in Williamson County, I am told that many years ago, 50 years ago, that you had the factory was a manufacturing for stove works, stoves and refrigerators and things like that. And all over the Franklin area was heavy into manufacturing. Step back 10, 15 years ago, we lost a lot of our manufacturing. It's beginning to make a comeback. The quality that they return it, but there's 350 families out there at this manufacturing place, and when you're talking about it, that they've invested in our community through our schools, mainly Fairview at this time, to teach those robotic skills, to teach the side of electrical and plumbing and heating and cooling while in high school, and those courses are transferable now to Columbia State. And I really do believe with all my heart, not everyone is going to be successful in a center of higher learning, but everyone's got to have a skill set in which to enter and go to work and feed his or her family. And so I applaud you for your hard work. I applaud you for trying to teach and direct our youth and people like me that still like to work with their hands. We've got a minute left that we kind of need to wrap up a little bit, but I'm sure there's something I've overlooked that you'd like to discuss. Please feel free to do that at this time.
Well, you know, one interesting area that we had that kind of fits this community is music industry is obviously the heartbeat of the Nashville greater surrounding area is, you know, there's a great demand for what goes on behind the scenes. And so that's maybe a need that we're looking at addressing on down the line here is how do we develop those guys with those technical skills? Because we have very competitive programs, MTSU, Belmont, Lipscomb. How do we develop those highly technical skilled students so that they can get a leg up to get into these schools or go right into that industry so they can continue to develop that high quality music?
Matt Horsman, you got a question? What's your phone number out there?
615-790-5721.
He's located out at the Ag Center. He's your and my Ag Director out there, and we thank you for what you do and the extension and the work and working with all of our youth and adults.
We appreciate it, Mayor, and thank you for all the support you guys give.
Have a good day. See you around the county.